What is the worst thing you have seen in real life? My girlfriend and I were the only witnesses to a nasty car accident. Middle of the night we were camping by a lake. Car crashed into a boulder and careened into the lake, ejecting the drunk driver to relative safety. But he was screaming and pointing at the car just under the surface of the water. I ended up pulling out 3 bodies and trying to cluelessly perform CPR, unsuccessfully. But I gave it everything I had. All the victims were my age, early 20s. You'll never forget the feeling of that poor girl's hair brushing up against my hand in the murky waters as I reached into the vehicle. 17 years later and still have nightmares about that fateful evening. The driver already had DUIs on his record and was sent to jail for murder. Edit: the driver was charged with second-degree murder as he was absolutely piss-drunk and currently on probation for DUI. I had an extended stay in the hospital in pulmonary heart-lung. They told my roommate, who was in his 80s, his heart was failing, would need hospice, and would likely die within 6 months. He spent the next few days calling everyone in his phone to tell them I'm dying. It was nice knowing you. Goodbye forever. Also, while complaining about pain from his Foley catheter, the doctor told him sometimes it tears you up going in or out, you get road rash on the inside, so that quote really stuck with me. A patient in the hospital with a fresh above-the-knee amputation, complicated by wound dehiscent stitches, flaps coming apart, with the raw exposed leg meat sitting in a big pool of diarrhea in the patient's bed. The image and the smell is still seared into my brain 16 years later. I was shooting a documentary in Cairo and went to the garbage collectors neighborhood, which are some of the worst slums I've seen anywhere in the world, which includes most of India. There was so much rotting detritus everywhere that I remember kneeling to get a shot, and realizing I had only just missed kneeling into the rotting corpse of a dead puppy. It was easy to miss because of all the other rotting carcasses and heaps of trash. The clouds of flies were so numerous and thick that they had all become completely immune to fear from swatting. You couldn't wave them away unless you made physical contact. I contracted typhoid after visiting this place. I just remember seeing a little kid, maybe 5 or 6, stirring plastic trash into a molten edit kiln with her father, completely barefoot. One of his feet was a blackened nub from tons of high-temperature burns. I've never before or since seen such profound, industrial poverty. The worst dystopian sci-fi looked far better by comparison. TLDR. Flat baby: a woman decided to park around a curve in the Havelate in Phoenix. Maybe 2011 or 2012. She was in an SUV. It was her daughter, her niece, and a baby. A truck ended up hitting them going somewhere around 100. The SUV, maybe a Blazer, folded like an accordion. The niece, maybe 14 years old, was alive but in shock. Everybody else was dead. Several of us tried to pry a door open or something, but to no avail. I looked in the back seat and saw a flat baby. I don't know how else to say that. The baby was flattened from the seat, crunching down on it. Don't know the gender? That girl was stuck in there next to her dead aunt, dead cousin, and stuck with her face uncomfortably close to the baby. Is there a comfortable distance though? When the fire department showed up, they cut the vehicle open and pulled the girl out. She got up to run and let out the most distraught scream I've ever heard. I can still hear her. I can still see the flat baby. I've seen a lot of fucked up shit, a few mutilated bodies, but a flat baby, that's the worst, most impactful. Late stage dementia. Basically, you get to this point with the person where they are eerily flickering in and out of awareness, absolute panic, then gone again. It's really common. My MIL at one point just was like, I can see people talking, but can't understand a word anyone is saying, while she was panicking, briefly, then went back to confused and unaware. When I was 10 or 11, I saw our family dog get hit by a car. He was a little thing and the car just sailed on past without stopping. The dog was laying there in the road with his back to me as I ran up screaming his name. He turned to face me and his right eyeball was hanging from the socket, bleeding. That's when I just fell apart screaming. My parents came out and we got him scooped up and into the car. I held him, his eye bleeding onto my arm, all the way to the emergency vet. He survived and lived a good several more years, never slowing down a bit. But fuck, was that a traumatic moment for a little kid. When I was little, I walked in on my parents having a loud argument. My mother had a handgun aimed at my father. She didn't shoot him, but it was freaky. I once saw a partner having a panic attack due to withdrawal of a drug she'd been secretly taking. I had no idea what was going on or why. So, one of those. They were both really difficult scenes to take in. My mom's body, several hours after she'd died from cancer. She was only 48, but she looked like a skeleton with yellow skin. I watched my dad die over a Zoom call in 2020. Right after Coachella 2012, I was at a gas station fueling up with my friends before our ride home when a girl came out of the darkness of the desert screaming and covered in blood. We were the only people at the gas station and all my friends backed off, but I stayed put until she got close. She climbed into my passenger seat, covered in blood, and just reached around me and started bawling. I was in shock for a few seconds until I noticed her teeth were completely shattered. I jumped into help mode, called 911 and waited for an ambulance, just holding her, both of us covered in her blood. Apparently she was tripping drunk when she left Coachella and crashed into some giant cactus in the desert about a quarter-mile away and wandered to us. The shattered teeth cannot be unseen. I felt so bad. Her parents showed up as well and were very rude to me and ungrateful. They were mad that I called for an ambulance. My brother was killed in Iraq while serving the US military. Years after his passing, my mother, while drunk, decided to show me an autopsy picture of my brother with his head and leg removed. I will never forget that image. In an alley near my old apartment, dead chicken and used condom with blood on it. The pain and hurt in a parent's face when they have lost a child. My mother beat a cat to death with a curtain rod in front of me and my brother and then made us bury it. I was maybe 9. She had a lot of mental health issues. Double below the knee amputee with dementia butt ass naked saying how good it feels to get his ass wiped in a really creepy way. I once had a sewage leak under my home that went on for way longer than it should. Crawling around under my home in a literal pool of multiple people's old rotting fetid sewage is an experience I never want to have ever again. Russian missile flying casually right over my house, with the sound of a jet plane. One of my best friends was killed by a drunk driver crossing the street in front of his house. I was coming home from spending the night at another friend's house and saw the wreckage and his body under a sheet on the street. 9 years old. I'm a Mexican teenager who lives in the most dangerous state, Acá-Ciartel war zone. In late 2023, returning from my school, I saw some butchered body parts. And the human ground meat was in a puddle of blood. I were with my parents in our car. But nobody said anyone. Wild. I also have heard many things, but I haven't witnessed them with my own eyes. Edit. As a proof, I give this paper I randomly found lying on the floor outside next to a trash can. HTTPS. I saw someone get shot 9 times and killed about 10 FT for me. The still body of our family boxer after having to be put down unexpectedly. My wife and I have our own pup now, just turned 4 years old today. Every day I watch him as closely as I can. Does he have lumps? Is he eating his gums? If he's sleeping too much, is he making an odd noise? I don't think I even sleep properly because any noise he makes I wake up immediately. I'm afraid that I'll miss something and have to see him go too soon too. Lady flying through the air after getting hit by a car. Removing brain matter from freeway after a hit and run on. Was a member of SES, will never forget the smell. This thread is horrifying. I think that's enough internet for the day.